Welcome to this tutorial where we are going to explore how to use Photopea and practice some basic foundation tools and skills when it comes to editing photos or using the program to create interesting collage artistic pieces. The best way to learn any type of design program is not to just open it and start clicking around, but to actually try and complete a composition within the program and practice using the tools while you are doing it. It is the best way to learn, and that's exactly what we are going to do today. So when you come to the Photopea website, and the website is www.photopea.com. When you open the website, you will come to this first initial loading page. And as you can see, you've got a range of different options. If you have created any work before, then you can open your old work with this button wherever it is saved. And if you have not created anything before, then you will click on a new project. Photopea is also great because it can edit and connect to any Photoshop, Illustrator, or InDesign kind of programs or files from the Adobe programs. So if that is something that you have, then you can use Photopea as a quick, cheap and free option to edit your previous files. But for this tutorial, we are going to click on New Project. When you click on a new project, you have different options depending on what you are going to be designing. So if you have mobile designs, if you are designing for a computer, if you are designing for a specific photo size, if you're designing a poster or anything that needs to be printed, and these are some more social media based template sizes. But for this tutorial, we will keep it simple, and we are going to use the print, and we will stick with the A4 paper dimensions. Here is your settings for your new file. So you can name your file something of your choosing. For myself, I will call it Photopea Basics. And at the moment, the width and height is for a portrait size. So we don't want that. We want it to be landscape. So if you simply click on the swap arrows here, it will change the dimensions for you automatically. Here is where you can change what settings you want to work in, and if you prefer working in pixels, then you can change it to pixels, but keeping it in centimeters will work just fine. The higher your DPI, the more pixels you want to include in your file size, and that means the file size is going to be larger. But for this tutorial, it is okay to bring it down lower. 75 pixels is typically a good framework to keep when you are only going to be designing for digital illustrations, which is what we're doing today. If you do wish to print this, then I would recommend bringing it up to 150. But for this activity, 75 will work just fine, and you can leave the rest of the settings. So we can go ahead and press Create. Now we are in our design interface. So the interface looks very similar to Adobe Photoshop if you have used it before. You have got your tools here that you can use for moving, cutting, selecting, adding in shapes, doing some final touch-ups. There is more options in your drop-down menus here, and over here is even more tools that is more settings-based depending on what you are creating. Now, the most important piece of information that you need to consider and continuously watch throughout the tutorial is your layers panel here. Photopea works in layers, and you can imagine that each layer is a piece of paper. So at the moment, our first layer is this white background, and it's locked, which means that you can't edit it, which is okay. It's good to lock a layer if you don't want to be clicking around and accidentally moving it. So as you can see, I unlocked it, and that's why I can move it. So now if I come back here and I lock it again, and I'm trying to click, it's not working because it's locked. It cannot be edited, and that's exactly what I want. So as you are working, you can use this option to keep your layers safe as you are working, but for now, I'm just going to keep it unlocked. So imagine that this background layer is your first piece of paper. You have a white piece of paper sitting down here in your workspace. Now, if you come here and you add a new layer, you can see inside of this picture, the new layer has checkered black, gray and white boxes. That means it's empty. Anytime you see this pattern, it means that this layer has nothing inside, compared to this one where it's fully white, which means it is the full size of our workspace is completely white. That's what is inside of this layer. So if I want to actually add something in here, that's when I start to come to my tools and I can decide what do I want to do. So just to show you how these layers work, for example, if I come here, I'm going to put in a shape. This is my shapes tool. If I click and press down, it'll open up some more options of different shapes. And here I can change my colors of my shapes. We have some basic interface colors here, but if I click on this larger one, I can select any colors that I want. And this is the inside color of the shape, and this would be the outside stroke of the shape. So if I draw a box, this is now my second layer that is sitting on top of my white layer, and you can see I now have the same rectangle color and shape inside of my layer thumbnail, which means that this is like a cut out rectangle from a piece of paper, and there's nothing else. It's empty here, but there is something here, and you can see that there is still the pattern surrounding the shape. So now if I can move my shape around and the picture will update within my thumbnail. And because there is nothing here, if I add another layer and again I put a new shape and it's a different color, I make another shape here, you can see that here, because this layer is on top of this one, it covers that corner of this red box because it is on top of layer 1. So if I bring it below, I click and drag it down, I've changed the order. I've put it one step behind. So it's like cutting out shapes from colored paper. I cut out this shape, I cut out this shape, and I put them together manually with my hands. And it works like that. It's the easiest way to think about it. You can create whatever text or shapes and organize them in their own layers, and then organize them like who's in the front, who's in the back, etc., etc. But what we are going to do today is we're going to try and create an eagle composition and practice cutting out pixels, replacing them, and editing the colors. Here are the two images that we are going to use: an eagle and a picture of a desert. The desert picture is going to be our background, and the eagle is going to be our main picture that we are going to edit. So, to add pictures into your file, the easiest way to do that is by clicking and dragging it directly into the file. And it might take some time to load, especially if it is a big picture. And when it sets itself into your file, you will see it has these tiny squares all the way around the picture. This means that it can be transformed. It can be made bigger or smaller. And when you are happy with the size, you can click the tick. Now, if you click on it, you can see I can't make it bigger or smaller anymore because I have set the size for my layer picture. So before you click the tick, you need to make sure that you're happy with the size. So to go back to the transform section, you can come to edit, make sure you've clicked on the correct layer. You go to edit, transform, and you can, free transform, sorry. And then you've got your boundary box again. So now I'm going to make this picture nice and big, just like this. And we want to have as much of the sky as possible and keep the person in the middle. And I think I'm happy with that. So I'm going to click the tick. So you'll notice that the picture has automatically created its own layer, and it has this tiny square on it. This square represents that the picture inside of this layer is a smart object. Smart objects cannot be edited. You cannot cut this, you cannot change the colors. It is a protected file. And if you want to keep it as a smart object because you don't plan on changing this, then you can leave it. But if you do want to edit this picture, you will need to rasterize it, which means you will change the settings of this picture to match the settings in your file and to make it editable. So if I come and I bring my second picture, same thing, drag and drop it in, you will see it's also, again, a new layer, and it has the smart object symbol there. So what we're going to do with this picture is we're going to use the eagle to pretend it is sitting on the edge of the sand dune, and it's like a big bird that's looking down at this person. So I want to scale my bird to a good size, but as you can see, I can't see the desert sand dunes to help me guide myself for where I want to position my bird. So to help me, I'm going to bring down the opacity. I'm going to make it slightly transparent. So now I can see a little bit of the photograph layer that's underneath the eagle. So now my boundary box is gone, so I have to go back to edit and free transform and make your bird as big as possible. Something like that. So you can see the sand dune is just there in between its claws, which is what I want. We're going to try and edit the claws and the tail to kind of be overlapping on top of the sand dune, like it's gripping and holding the sand with its claws. So I'm happy with that, so I'm going to click the tick. So now I'm done with the opacity. I can bring it back up, and I want to edit this picture. I don't need to edit this one, so I'm going to leave it as a smart object, but I need to edit this one. We need to remove the background, and we need to cut away the tail, and then we're also going to play with some interesting tools. So to rasterize this layer, to make it editable, you will right click on the layer and you will select this option here, rasterize. And now you can see our little square is gone. So now this is ready to be edited. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the pen tool. We're going to use the pen tool to create a custom selection all around the bird and then select a certain amount of pixels for it to be removed. You want to make sure that your setting is set to path. Path means that you're going to draw like a pathway. You can also create shapes, but that's not appropriate for what we're doing right now. You're going to create a path. So you want to zoom in nice and close to your bird. And to zoom in, you can use your magnifier here, and you can click to zoom in and choose the minus to zoom out. You want to click decently close so you can see lots and lots of detail for the wing. And when you are moving around in your file, you should use your move tool. The move tool is how you'll move the picture, but now with your mouse, if you click and drag, you're actually moving the picture. You can see here as I move, it's moving in my layer, which is not what I want. I want it to stay in the same position, but I need to like see what I'm doing. I don't have a trackpad. I can't move with my fingers. I need to use my mouse. So to do that, I'm going to hold down the space bar on my keyboard, and you can see my cursor has changed to a little hand. So I'm going to let go, and you can see it's back to my move tool. And now I go back to hold down my space bar, and now I am just moving my viewpoint around the file. So, like I said, we're going to use the pen tool. So I come back here, select my pen tool, make sure it's on path. I will quickly demonstrate how this tool works, and then you can follow me to see how we're going to select the bird itself. How this tool works is you click one time. You click, and what you have inserted is an anchor point. This anchor point acts like a point that's going to hold down your path. If you click again, there's a new anchor point, and now you have a path. You can think of it like a piece of string that's attached by certain points. And if you click more points all the way around, you are guiding the string in which direction you want it to go. But as you can see, the corners are very pointy. They're very, very sharp. And our bird has more curves to it. So if I undo Command Z or Control Z, if I want this part to be curved, I need to click and keep pressing down with my left mouse button, and I drag, I pull it. I'm still holding down on my mouse with my left side of the mouse, and I'm pulling it. And as you can see, the path is now bending, and I have these extra toggles on my anchor. This is you pulling. How strong do you want the pull to be? And which direction do you want the path to go next? So if I'm going in this direction now, I will click and pull, then I will let go because I'm happy with this bend here in my path. And then when I click again, I will repeat it. I will click, keep pressing down with my left side of the mouse, and I pull some more. Then I let go, click, press down, hold down with the left mouse button, click and pull. And I can keep doing that to create a curved shape and path using the pen tool. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to click and draw all the way around the bird, selecting only the bird itself. And when you come to the end of your entire selection, you have to click on your first anchor point to close your selection. Right now, you can't do anything. It is just a path drawing. If you want to delete the pixels that are inside of this shape or do any kind of edit to these pixels, you have to close it. And you can see when I hover over my first point, it has a little circle next to my cursor. That circle means you want to close the selection. So if I click on it, my path is now closed. So now I can delete or edit these pixels. So once it's closed, I will choose selection, make a selection. I will click OK, and it becomes a dotted line. And now I can delete this by clicking the delete button on my keyboard. And now this has a hole in it. What you are seeing is the orange color from the sky in the layer below it. And if I move my picture, there you can see the girl, because it acts like a hole. It's like you took a pair of scissors and you cut a custom shape in your page. And that's how the selection tool works. Now, don't worry about the dotted lines still being there. If you are finished creating selections completely and you want it to be gone, you just have to come to your selection tool here. You right click inside of your selection and you do deselect. And now it's gone. So, now that you know how the tool works, let's use it to select our bird. So, choose your pen tool, make sure it's on path, and make your first anchor point. When you are drawing your selection, remember to create a curve, you need to click and hold down with your left mouse button and pull. And then when you're happy with your curve, you can release it. Now, work very slowly as you are creating your selection of your bird all the way around. It is okay if you have your selection go slightly inwards on the bird, because then you are more likely going to remove the blue pixels from the sky in the picture. Now, if you have a problem, as you're selecting, you put an anchor point in one position and then you go to do another one, and you find that it's not curving the way that you want it to. It maybe is because you pulled too hard, or the distance between your anchors is too great. So then you might have to undo and add an anchor point that's slightly closer, and don't pull too hard. It is okay to have more anchor points, but you also just need to practice about what is the perfect amount of anchor points and how great do you need to pull to create that curve. So remember to move around your viewpoint. You need to hold down your space bar on the keyboard to keep moving. And something important to remember, when you are in this mode and you are using this tool, do not go and click on another tool or try to exit this mode and then continue, because it is most likely that you have disconnected from this path that you are currently drawing. And then when you go back to the first point, you will find that it did not work. So don't do anything until you have finished making your whole selection. And if you cannot see your anchor points, these little blue squares, as you are drawing your path, that might mean that you have disconnected. If it's only a blue line and no anchor points, you might have disconnected and something went wrong. So you want to see these little blue squares everywhere. So I'm going to speed up my video and we'll come to the end after I have selected everything in my bird. When you are selecting the tail of the bird, yes, it's hard to see the whole tail because it's covered by the branches of the tree. So just imagine what the shape of the feathers would be if there was no tree there. Just try your best. All right, now that I've finished my entire selection, I'm back at my first point, anchor point, and I'm going to click close my selection. So if I zoom out, you will see my entire bird has the whole selection. I've got lots of anchor points, so I can click make selection, click OK, and now I have selected my whole bird. So now what I want to do is I want to actually cut this bird out of my picture so that there is no more blue sky. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use my selection tool here, my rectangle select, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to do layer via cut. And you can see it has automatically created a new layer and my bird is now missing from my photograph. If I click on this little eye, which means I want to hide this layer, you can see that my bird is now missing from here. This is my photograph layer and it's empty. It's like I took a pair of scissors and I cut it out. Now I don't need this anymore. I only want my bird. So I'm going to delete this layer and I'm going to click on the delete button here, making sure I have the correct layer selected, click delete. So I'm going to bring back my bird, I'm going to show my bird, and here we have it. So that's great. No more sky, we still have the branches, which is okay. And now we can move on to the next step. You've practiced how to use the pen tool to make a selection to remove or create a cut in your selection. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try and remove the branch from this part of our bird. So the tool that you're going to practice, and you can zoom in again to come nice and close. The tool we're going to practice is called a clone stamping tool. So to find this tool, you need to click and press down on your brush, your paintbrush, and come here, choose clone tool. The clone tool copies the pixels you have chosen and tries to duplicate that pixel area selection. So if I come to just the top of my bird, I'm just going to demonstrate how this tool works first before you can try it. I have my clones tool selected here, and here are my settings for my tool. If I click here, I can decide if I want the selection to be really hard, like for the paintbrush to paint really hard, or for it to be more soft. I'm going to keep it hard for now because I want the pixel selection to be really clear. And the size, you can see behind me that the circle is getting larger or smaller. This circle kind of represents our paintbrush because yes, we're in a clone stamp, but you can imagine that it's a paintbrush that is copying and painting the pixel selection. And right now, our circle is empty, which means we have not selected anything. And to select the pixels that you want to paint and copy, you need to click down on your Options key on your keyboard. Now, this might be the Alt key on a Windows keyboard, but for the Mac computers, it is the Options key. So as you can see, as I click or release the button, it changes to a plus. this plus means that it's ready to select your pixels. So I'm just going to click on the head of the bird. Click one time with my mouse and I let go. And here you can see now that area that I selected is now here inside of my circle. So if I want to use the clone stamp tool to create a second head for the bird, I can use this clone stamp tool to do that. So now it's ready to copy. I'm going to paint. I'm just going to draw. And as you can see, I'm clicking down with my mouse on the left side and I keep pressing down and I'm copying the pixels that it has chosen. You can see on the face of the bird, the original face, there's a tiny, tiny plus cursor there, and it's showing you which pixels it's copying. So as I paint down, the cursor, the plus, is moving down, and it's showing me which pixels I am currently copying. So this is how it works. You select your pixels, your first area where you want to copy it, and then you just use your mouse, click down on the left side, and use it to copy and duplicate your selected pixels. And you can do this anywhere. I can also copy the head up here. It can be in any place. It doesn't have to be in the same horizon line as the area that you selected. It can be anywhere. And that's pretty much how it works. So we're going to use this tool to select the feathers or parts of the feathers or the leg and try and make it look as if the leg is there by itself and there's no branch over it. So go and select your clone stamp tool. Maybe we bring down the hardness to about 50. You can type it in physically, that's also possible. So make it 50%. And you can make the size bigger or larger by clicking here, or you can use your keyboard tool. You can use the square bracket. The right square bracket makes it bigger, the left square bracket makes it smaller. And that's just quicker to use your keyboard shortcuts rather than always coming to your settings here and changing it. So I'm going to start with the leg. Right now I've still got the bird's face in my selection, so I'm going to hold down my option key on my keyboard and I'm going to select this part of the leg. Click one time. So now I've got it there. So I'm going to see if I can kind of make this black part come down slightly. Now with selections like this, yes, you can just paint and draw down, but you can see that it has the copied pixels of the branch and we don't want that. So instead I'm just going to click once, one time. Click there to replace the branch. I'm not going to paint down. And I'm going to hold down my option key again, click here and click one time. Hold down again here, click one time. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm not going to paint because I don't want it to select the pixels here. I'm just going to keep going back and forth between my options to make it look as if the bird's feathers of its leg are going down, down, down. And I want to select some skin too. So I might come here and just fix it up slightly there. And again, select and then click, 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 or just paint very gently, but making sure that you're not accidentally selecting more pixels than you need. So you can keep doing it like that until you're happy with what it looks like. And then you can see we've kind of replaced the feathers and the skin with a wave with the branch, which is great. So now you want to do that with the feather here. You want to remove this chunk of the branch. So again, choose the size of your brush, hold down option, click on this area of the feather, and then I'm going to click just individually, or make it slightly bigger. Click again, and I'll paint gently. Now, at the moment, the problem with the brush is you can kind of see the circle as you click, click, click. So you can, again, bring it down even further to make it softer. And it'll be a softer edge to your brush. And there it starts to kind of fix itself. And once you're happy with it, then you can stop. You don't have to do the whole branch because most of this branch is going to be hidden behind our sand dune, but remove the branch on top of its leg and remove the branch that's sitting here using your clone stamp. When you're finished with that, you now need to position your bird because we want the claws to come over the sand dune. So I'm going to bring down my opacity again, just enough, and zoom in so I can see the claws of the bird. And I'm going to kind of position it here. So we're going to try and make the bird look as if it's sitting on this sand dune here. So we need to remove anything that doesn't make sense because technically it'll be behind the sand dune. The only thing that's going to be on top of the sand is the bird's claws. So we'll practice a different tool to remove the pixels. We will practice the eraser tool. And this tool acts the same as a pencil eraser. And again, you can change the settings, make it harder or softer, and you can change the size. So if you use the tool and you click and press down and start to erase away the pixels. So I'm following the line of the sand to decide where I want it. So I've removed most of the large pixels of the of my bird, which is what I want. But now there is still some branch and pixels in between the toes that I need to remove. So I'll bring up my opacity a little bit more, but I still want to be able to see my sand dune. And I will move in slightly. I will zoom in more, come back to my eraser tool, make my eraser slightly smaller, and start to, whoops, I had the wrong layer selected, and come here and start to erase the pieces in between the nails. And you need to play with the size of your eraser here. You don't want it to be too big because then it'll remove too many pixels. And when you're done, you should have something like this. So now when you're finished erasing that, you can bring back your opacity, and now you've got the bird sitting on the top of your sand dune, looking down or just looking gracefully at the person, and the person is looking at this giant bird. So now, to make it look slightly more realistic, it won't look very realistic, but it's just to practice the tool. We want to create a shadow of the bird down onto the sand. To do that, we will practice another tool. So I want to copy this layer. And to do that, I'm going to right click here and I'm going to select duplicate layer. And it's copied my bird. So now with my move tool, I'm going to move my copied bird. And I now need to rotate it. So we need to transform it again. So I'll go to Edit, Free Transform. And if I put my cursor on the corner selection of the boundary box, and when it's curved like this, that means I can rotate my layer. So I will rotate it. Have it be upside down shadow. Then I'm going to place it in a position that I'm happy with, which is about here. And if you want to go the extra mile, you want to make it look super realistic, then you would need to warp this picture. And the reason you would have to do that, I'm just going to hide this for a minute, is because the sand dunes have depths to it. It has different shapes. It goes down and back up, and it's got little crevices everywhere. So if you wanted to make the shadow look realistic, as if it's bending onto the surfaces, then you would need to warp your picture. So if you go back to the free transform, you have this option here called warp, where the boundary box will change. And if you click on certain parts of the picture, you can click and pull certain areas. You can also use the toggles. You can also grab from the corners, and you can distort your shadow to make it look as realistic as you want for how it might look against the different crevices of the sand dunes. So if you warp it and you find that you are happy with this kind of experiment, you can click the tick. Now using this, we want to use this layer to create a black shape in the same shape of the bird, imagining that the sun is beaming down on this bird and down here is the shadow. So we want this layer to be black. Now there are different ways that we can do this. We can create again the shape selection of our bird, and we can use different tools to do that. So we can try the quick selection tool. So if you use the quick selection tool, make sure it's on the plus mode, and I would bring the size of it up. And what it should do, if you click and paint over your bird, when you've got the selection of the bird here, and if it hasn't selected the bird and it's only a box, you can click on this button called Select Subject, and it will select the pixels that's inside of your layer. So once you have your selection around the bird, you are going to paint over it. So we'll come back to our clone stamp tool, choose our brush, our paintbrush, make the paintbrush nice and big, have the hardness be really large, and here is where you'll select your color. The top color is the color that you'll be painting with. So we want it to be black, or maybe we want it to actually be this burnt orange color. So if I click on this square, I can choose a custom color here. But if I want to choose a color from the sand dune to make it look more realistic to the picture, I can click on the outside of my settings box here, and wherever I click, it's clicking the pixel colors of the area of my choosing. So I'm going to click here where it's kind of the darkest burnt orange color, and I'm going to click OK. So now I'm going to paint. I'm going to paint on my layer, and you can see because we have this selection, and even though I'm painting here, there's nothing, because we are only painting inside of this selection, which is exactly what we want. So it's painted. Great. Now we can come back to our selection tool here, and we want to remove our dotted lines. So we will right click, deselect. And now we've got this burnt orange color shadow here, but we can't see the sand dune or the person anymore. So what we need to do is we need to blend this layer with our photograph background. And where you will find your blending modes is here. So when you have a layer selected and you come here and you choose a different blending setting, there are lots of different options and they do different things. So for example, if I choose multiply, you are telling the program that you want this layer to have the multiply setting, and whatever this layer in the interface, whatever it's directly on top of, right now it's directly on top of the photograph layer, it will blend this layer with that layer. This layer, there's no change in terms of the setting, it's only happening here. So if I move this layer, you'll see that it's now blending with the bird because it's directly on top of the bird. But because we have it here, this is where we want it to be blending on anyway. So you can choose the setting of your choice. Like I said, they all do different things and the blending results will look different. It depends on the color of your shape or your photo or whatever item you have put inside of your layer. The setting will change it depending on all of that. So choose something that you think is most appropriate for the shadow kind of effect that we're going for. So for me, it's either going to be multiply or linear burn. I think I'll go for multiply because it's not too dark. So I'm happy with that. Now, the edges of the shadow are a bit too strong. No shadow is that clear. So I'm going to again use my eraser tool, but this time I'm going to have the softness be down and I'll make it relatively big. Let's make it way bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm very gently going to erase the edges of my shadow to make it look like it is blending just a bit more. And you can decide for yourself how much do you want to erase and how strong. It's really up to you. But when you're happy with the results, then you can be done making the edges. And what I'm doing is I'm just single clicks, one click, one click, one click, rather than brushing, because then it removes too much. So I'm just single clicking away. And when I'm happy, then I'm gonna leave it alone. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to zoom in, and I actually want to remove all of the shadow that's sitting on top of this woman, because right now she's too dark and the shadow is actually going to be in front of her. So I'm still going to use my eraser tool. I'm just going to make it smaller, and I'm going to make the hardness 100 because I want it to be gone completely and I want the edges to be very, very clear. We can see more of the color that's coming out from on her, which is what we want. So it just looks a bit more realistic, as if the shadow is behind her and then her shadow is in front of her. And this is the end of our composition. So it's not about making it look super realistic at the moment. It's about practicing the basic tools and how they work, and using the tools to create something for fun. To save this as a JPEG, you will go to your file and you will do export as and select JPEG. Make sure that your quality is set to 100, that the setting is in fact JPEG, and you can click save, and it'll save into your downloads so that you can open it, and here is your final picture. So thank you so much for watching this tutorial, and I hope that it has helped you understand some basic Photopea tools that you can also go and use if you have Adobe Photoshop, because it works exactly the same. Thank you. Bye bye.